Great. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us. I want to start by recognizing we're on the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples. Unfortunately, we're in the riding of David McGuinty. Unfortunately, he could not join us today. He's a member of Parliament for Ottawa South. I'm certainly delighted to be joined virtually and in person by a number of people, including my good friend, Minister Champagne, who is the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, but also he has a lot of experience in this space because he was the former Minister of Infrastructure. I'm thrilled to be here with the Mayor, Mayor Jim Watson. He, I think, has an exciting announcement or support for today's announcement, but thank you for allowing us to be here at the bus hangar. Also, Councillor Jean Cloutier, he's the Vice Chair of the City of Ottawa Transit Commission. Also joining us virtually, we have Ehren Cory, the CEO of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, a real partner in this initiative and many others. And another friend, Josipa Petrunic. She's the President and CEO of the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium, QTRIC. So in Canada, we think big. That was true when we pushed the railway across the continent. That was true when we built the Trans-Canada Highway and when we built the St. Lawrence Seaway. While today we call this infrastructure, it's really about building what we need for the future we want. While we're reeling from a devastating pandemic and a stalled economy, moving forward is more important than ever. We need to build our way out of this pandemic, and we need to build back better. Il est donc temps de voir grand, tandis que nous investissons dans des transports en commun modernes et durables partout au pays afin de réduire la congestion, de créer 1 million de bons emplois et de soutenir l'établissement de collectivités propres et inclusives. Our government has been making historic investments in public transit projects. Since 2015, we've invested more than $13.6 billion in over 1,300 transit projects from coast to coast to coast. But we recognize that this is just a start. A couple of weeks ago, I joined the Prime Minister and Environment Minister Jonathan Wilkinson as we announced an additional $14.9 billion in new public transit funding over the next 8 years. That's for projects and programs that can go ahead quickly, make a big difference in the lives of Canadians, meaning cleaner air, but also making sure that we do our part to tackle climate change. Un financement à long terme stable qui donne aux autorités de transport en commun la confiance de développer, d'agrandir et de moderniser le réseau de transport en commun, pendant que les Canadiens reconstruisent notre économie et s'emploient à s'atteindre la neutralité carbone d'ici 2050. That's why I'm so happy to be here today to announce that our government is moving forward quickly and ambitiously to have 5,000 zero-emission buses across Canada with an investment of $2.75 billion for city buses and for school buses, as well as charging infrastructure. This is a huge opportunity for Canadian companies and for good Canadian jobs, because Canada is a global leader in producing these buses. From Lion Electric et Novabus au Québec, to New Flyer in Winnipeg, Manitoba, to Green Power Motor Company in BC, Canadian companies are leading the way. Je suis très heureuse d'annoncer aujourd'hui que notre gouvernement va d'avance avec ambition et vite pour avoir 5 000 autobus à émissions zéro à travers le Canada avec un investissement de 2,75 milliards de dollars pour des autobus urbains et des autobus scolaires. C'est une très grande opportunité pour les entreprises canadiennes et pour de bons emplois pour les Canadiens, puisque le Canada est un leader mondial pour la fabrication d'autobus électriques au Canada. Novabus, Lyon Electric, New Flyer et Green Power Motor Company. This means better public transit, cleaner air, quieter streets, and a planet safe for our kids and future generations. Canadians want us to get behind smart ideas that will fight climate change and improve daily life. That's exactly why we're investing in public transit and why we're investing in zero-emission transit and school buses. De meilleurs transports en commun, un air plus propre, des rues plus calmes et une planète plus sûre pour nos enfants et les générations futures. Les Canadiens veulent que nous soutenions les nouvelles idées qui permettront de lutter contre les changements climatiques et d'améliorer la vie quotidienne. C'est pourquoi nous investissons dans le transport en commun et dans des autobus électriques et des autobus scolaires à émissions zéro. Let me be clear. Putting in place the conditions to grow a robust Canadian zero-emission bus manufacturing sector is just one part of a wider movement to make Canada a global leader in electric vehicles and other non-emitting transportation technologies. Canada has the skilled labor, the expertise, the manufacturing, and the raw materials to make the most of the coming zero-emission vehicle revolution. We have the rare earth metals we can mine for the amazing new advances in battery technology that we see every day. We have world-class research and development, whether it's Ballard fuel cells out of Vancouver, or exciting research at the University of Calgary, or the work Tesla is doing with Dalhousie University on battery technology in Halifax. Also, we have the newly charged Canada Infrastructure Bank, which has a mandate to invest $1.5 billion to finance the purchase of zero-emission buses as part of its 3-year ambitious growth plan. And I should note, by 2023, all new federal investments in public transit will support zero-emission bus and rail systems. That's our commitment, and we're on track. We have already invested in 300 zero-emission buses across Canada, and we're going to get to 5,000 as quickly as possible. Transportation accounts for a quarter of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions, so cleaning up the public transit sector while creating good union jobs and supporting a growing Canadian clean tech sector is a win-win-win. Building big things in Canada has always been about nation building. We built big because we thought big. Now, in 2021, it's time to think big and build again. Nous allons maintenant écouter mon collègue et grand ami, le ministre Champagne, quelqu'un qui est très ambitieux pour le Canada, qui pourra nous en dire un peu plus sur les excitantes avancées réalisées dans le secteur des technologies propres au Canada. Merci.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. And when we think about thinking big, I mean, you, Minister, have done marvel for Canada, and I'm so proud to be joining us virtually from Shawinigan today. I used to be in your role where I spend my time with hangars, in hangars visiting different infrastructures. So my heart is with you for sure this morning. I cannot be there physically, but you can rest assured that infrastructure will always have a special place in my heart, because that's where we build, that's where we improve the lives of people, that's where we create jobs. And I think you said it better than anyone, Minister, when you talk about zero-emission technologies. This is about driving growth, this is about jobs, this is really about a more sustainable future. And the department I'm heading, which is science, innovation, and industry, I think of the biggest challenge we have today, whether it's the pandemic or climate change, the way to resolve them will be into science, innovation, and technology. So great to be with you. Merci de m'avoir invité. Monsieur le maire, Mr. Mayor Watson, a pleasure to it's been a long time, but I hope one day I can go back to Ottawa, so I have a chance to see you in person. And thank you for your leadership. Just like Minister McKenna, you've been a driving force in Ottawa and in Ontario, and you've been a partner of mine when I had the role of Minister McKenna. And it's a real honor to be there with the councillor, the new leadership at the Infrastructure Bank. Happy to see you and virtually. You have a big mandate. We trust on you. Canadians want you to be active. And Josipa, it's great to see you again. I must say, you've always been there to push us in the right direction. And I think Canadians are grateful for your work. Écoutez, chers collègues, chers amis, très heureux évidemment de me joindre à l'annonce de la ministre McKenna. Je veux la remercier de m'avoir permis de me joindre à vous aujourd'hui pour souligner, this is a landmark investment in electric vehicle. This is nothing short of a landmark announcement in what we're going to be doing as a country. Et je pense que cet investissement-là aujourd'hui va continuer de positionner le Canada parmi les leaders mondiaux en matière de transport électrique. Donc, comme la ministre McKenna le disait, on ne voit pas juste grand pour Ottawa, on ne voit pas juste grand pour l'Ontario, on ne voit pas juste grand pour le Canada, mais je pense qu'on est en train de bâtir les piliers pour faire du Canada l'endroit de choix dans le monde, évidemment, pour bâtir des véhicules électriques. And over the past year, all of us, we've been focused on responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. But while we do everything possible to protect the health and safety of Canadians, we are equally focused on the future. And I'm proud to serve alongside Minister McKenna, who's always been a strong voice around the cabinet to make sure that whilst we deal with the immediate emergency, which is the pandemic, we think about climate change and making sure that we do immediate strategic actions with a long-term vision. And this morning for me embodies this thinking of immediate action with a long-term vision. And I think we can all agree as Canadians that the future is undeniably green and clean. So avant la pandémie, on remarquait déjà un intérêt croissant de la part des consommateurs, des municipalités, des différents gouvernements pour les produits à faible émission de carbone. Et effectivement, on voit aujourd'hui avec cette annonce-là que ce que la ministre McKenna annonce aujourd'hui, ça va accélérer cette transition-là énergétique. Parce que quand le Canada utilise évidemment son poids pour acheter des véhicules ou financer l'achat de véhicules, bien évidemment, on a tout l'écosystème électrique quand on parle de la batterie jusqu'à évidemment la fabrication et même jusqu'au recyclage. De nombreux pays, y compris évidemment le Canada, ont fait de la lutte au changement climatique une priorité pour leur relance économique et ce matin, c'est un très bel exemple de ça. Tous les secteurs de l'économie ont intérêt à prendre le virage des technologies propres. And this is not only an environmental imperative. The clean tech industry will fuel global economic growth now and in the future and will bring jobs and prosperity. Minister McKenna mentioned a number of flagship companies across our nation, from BC's to the prairies to Quebec, where these companies have already innovated. And with them, we will continue to keep Canada at the forefront of innovation. And I think, with the renewed partnership with our friends south of the border, I think we can see big. Minister McKenna was right. I think for not only what we're going to do in Canada, but I think we can lead the transformation in North America. And today's announcement is yet another example of backing our words with actions. And I think that's what Canadians want to see. They like the vision, but they want to see actions. And this morning is exactly that. And this will complement, I think Minister McKenna was right to point out other federal investments that have been made in the green mobility space. I mean, we've been investing, Minister McKenna, Minister Wilkinson have been doing that. We created also a $3 billion fund to support our company towards that. But one thing I can share with you all this morning, when I talk to different CEOs around the world, is that they see major manufacturers see Canada more and more as the place to build electric vehicle. And I think that this morning, this is going to be anchoring that vision and the mission and the mandates that we can get in Canada, which will create, obviously, the jobs and the good jobs that people want. So I cannot be more proud and want to congratulate everyone for the work today. I think it's a great example of how clean technology investment not only benefit the environment, but also our economy and our community. I see you, Mayor Watson, nodding, and this is going to improve the lives of people in Ottawa and across the nation. You know, you drive, or let's say, you get transported in an electric vehicle. I think it's in line with our values as Canadians. It improves the journey, and at the same time, it makes mobility more easy and obviously carbon neutral. With that, I just want to say in conclusion, let's seize the moment. Let's be ambitious, as many have said today, and let's build back better together and a greener future for now and for our kids. So with that, Minister McKenna, I'll turn over to you. But again, congratulations to you and the whole leadership for making that happen today. Merci.
Alors, un grand merci, Ministre Champagne. I know you are just such a champion for Canada being a leader in the world. We have a huge opportunity. But I'm also excited because what happens when you demonstrate leadership and you have investments to be making at the federal level, you see leadership at the local level. And that we can be really supporting, we have been supporting through the pandemic, municipalities across the country, and now we want to work with them. We want to work with cities and towns to be ambitious when it comes to cleaning up our transportation system, when it comes to making investments that are going to create good jobs here in Canada, and when it comes to tackling climate change. So it is great to have here Mayor Watson, who I think is going to talk about why this announcement is really exciting in the context of Ottawa. And of course, I'm now going to put on my other hat. I'm the Member of Parliament for Ottawa Centre, so obviously very happy to hear that the city is so keen to move forward with the federal government. Mayor Watson.
Well, thank you very much, Minister McKenna, Monsieur le Ministre Champagne. I love the minister's enthusiasm. All the way from Shawinigan, I have great fond memories of our dinner together in Westboro, and we solved a lot of problems of the world that evening over brisket and macaroni and cheese. So great to see you. And Catherine, of course, is such a champion for not only the environment, but for infrastructure and the great work that she has done and your government has done partnering with the municipal sector. I also want to recognize Ehren Cory, CEO of the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and Ms. Petrunic, President CEO of the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium. I send regrets from my colleague and friend Alan Hubley, the chair of OC Transit, was not able to make it today, but we have the vice chair, Monsieur Jean Cloutier, qui représente cet quartier aussi de Alta Vista. And ministers, this is the exact garage that we will be charging the buses when our first order of buses, electric buses, arrives later this year. And on my way over here, I was telling Minister McKenna there was a bit of commotion on the off-ramp by the 417 and Saint Laurent Boulevard, and I noticed there are 3 or 4 of our trains that have arrived from Brampton, all covered up in plastic, and they're on their way over to, I guess, the Belfast Yard. So that was very timely indeed. Alors, Madame la Ministre, Monsieur le Ministre, merci pour l'invitation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about today's announcement that illustrates how important it is for all 3 orders of government to work together. C'est vraiment important pour les 3 paliers du gouvernement de travailler ensemble, non seulement pendant la pandémie, mais après la pandémie. Today, this collaboration funding that you announced today, Minister McKenna, will help cities like the City of Ottawa transition to more sustainable transit fleets, and that helps meet our objectives of our own climate change master plan. This plan is our city's roadmap to transition Ottawa towards a clean, renewable, and resilient community by 2050. And we've been working for over 2 decades on innovative ways to reduce GHGs from our vehicles, including our buses at OC Transpo. Recently, for instance, we have moved to electric by-law enforcement vehicles, installed more vehicle charging stations at city facilities, and enabled access to e-scooters as a sustainable form of transportation in our community. Toutes ces actions comptent et nous sommes toujours à la recherche de nouvelles technologies pour nous aider. Moving from diesel to electric is fundamental in us meeting our GHG reduction goals. Today's funding announcement will help Canadian municipalities like Ottawa take the next step towards the critical transition from diesel to clean energy. In Ottawa, we're rolling out our electric bus pilot project this fall, where we'll see 4 electric buses deployed on the streets of Ottawa. And the garage that I mentioned that we're in today, this is where the charging station will be housed. And each one of these electric buses will help us save, think about this for a minute, 35,000 litres of fuel every year, which is the annual consumption of a diesel-powered bus. So just think about that, taking 35,000 litres of fuel out of the equation and out of the environment. This is in addition to the savings from LRT, the city's biggest investment, which we're partnering with the federal and provincial government on. And this will also help save 50 million litres of diesel and reduce GHG emissions by 110,000 tonnes annually by 2048. Mais nous voulons voir beaucoup plus d'autobus électriques sur nos rues dans les années à venir. We have a much larger ambition when it comes to the electrification of OC Transpo's vehicles. That's why I've asked our staff to explore how the new funding opportunities announced today can help us speed the electrification of our OC Transpo bus fleet. Now, this is the reason why this is such a great news announcement is it's working with the Infrastructure Bank, working with your department, Minister McKenna, and working with the city to ensure that we have far more than just 4 electric buses. You're going to see a very impressive report coming to Transit Commission under Alan and Jean's leadership in the months ahead that look at what the number is, and it will be substantially larger than 4 buses. That's baby steps. We want to go with big steps. So this announcement today is very, very important in our fight against climate change, securing a cleaner environment for generations to come. And I want to thank Minister Champagne, who was the former infrastructure minister, for his great work, and also Minister McKenna, who's such a champion, as I mentioned, not just for infrastructure, which is her portfolio, but sustainability because of her former portfolio and her passion for the environment. So, Ministers, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. And it's now my pleasure to ask Ehren Cory, the President of the Infrastructure Bank, to say a few words. Merci.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, and thank you, Minister McKenna, for inviting me to join you. It's a pleasure to be with you virtually, at least, and I look forward to the day when I can join you in person in a bus hangar. At the Canada Infrastructure Bank, we're focused on making investments in infrastructure that generate economic growth, that create jobs, and that make our economies and communities stronger and greener. And investments in public transit are a core part of the focus of the bank. Last fall, as Minister McKenna highlighted, the CIB launched our $10 billion growth plan, which established a series of concrete investment priorities for the near term that meet these triple goals of closing infrastructure deficit, accelerating the transition to a low-carbon economy, and supporting jobs and economic recovery given the situation we find ourselves in. Investments in zero-emission fleets are one of the 5 priority initiatives in that growth plan. And as the Minister mentioned, the CIB's goal is to invest $1.5 billion to support municipalities and other fleet owners in converting to electric and other zero-emission solutions over the coming 3 years. Financing challenges are often the limiter to the development and expansion of clean transit systems. And the CIB, the design of our program is meant to address the barriers that bus owners and operators face by financing the higher upfront cost of buying zero-emission buses and leveraging the long-term substantial operating savings that these investments create. Because in addition to their climate benefits, as the Mayor highlighted, they also come with significant cost savings. The funding announced by the Minister today complements the growth plan of the CIB and opens the opportunity for coordinated investments, as the Mayor mentioned. We can work together now, the combination of the government grant funding and our CIB's innovative financing tools, to be a catalyst for more municipalities to make the switch to cleaner buses at large scale across Canada. Leveraging the combination of the grant and our money puts us on a path to achieving the government's goal of 5,000 zero-emission buses. Minister, thanks again for having me. I really look forward to our teams continuing to work together to showcase Canada as a leader in zero-emission buses. And Mayor Watson, we look forward to continuing to work with the City of Ottawa and municipalities across the country to make this a reality. Thanks. Now I want to invite Dr. Josipa Petrunic from Utrecht to deliver remarks. Josipa, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ehren. Minister McKenna, Minister Champagne, Mayor Watson, Ehren, all of the team at the Infrastructure Bank and Infrastructure Canada, merci pour l'opportunité d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. I'm joining you from the beautiful undulating hills of St. Catharines, and from this beautiful perch up here in the Niagara region, Minister, I will emphatically and unapologetically say that this is what happens when you get a woman as a Minister of Infrastructure and a woman as Minister of Finance. You get feminism in action in the form of great public transit innovation that protects the climate while liberating women. Women who, by the way, are the majority of transit riders in Canada today, and we're giving them the better mobility that they deserve to get back to work safely, securely, to revivify this economy post-pandemic. So thank you, as a woman and as a transit rider, for all of your efforts here. But I have to say emphatically as well how transformational this funding is from a technological standpoint and from a transit operational standpoint. The reality is that decarbonizing transportation, and especially electrifying transit, is not like a simple Jenga puzzle where you take one piece out of the front and you put it in the back, and it comes out as a diesel bus and it goes in the back as an electric bus and the whole structure stays standing. This is much more transformational. This is about knocking down the entire structure and rebuilding a better infrastructure going forward that looks completely different. If you work in the industry, you've been around electric buses, as Mayor Watson, you have been, you will know that this is complex stuff. It involves a different set of propulsion systems. It involves batteries and hydrogen fuel cell tanks. It involves electrolyzers and high-powered chargers, some of which will be part of our urban environment. It involves energy storage devices and smart charging controls. This is so much new technology, and transit needs the support to be able to make this transformation active in its own communities. It is very difficult, and this funding today is going to help transit de-risk that entire process and help to build a better Canada. And we know across Canada in our northern communities that there is absolutely a pressing need for zero emissions and renewably fueled transportation systems. But across the south, we already have major leaders in this country that are establishing a marketplace, that have already taken the risk to be leaders out there before the funding was even arranged, and that are going to hoover up this money lickety-split. So, Minister, I have no doubt that this money will be used faster than the government can probably write the checks. Because if we take a look from west to east, we have not only the leadership at OC Transpo, but we also have the leadership at TransLink, which was Canada's first system to deploy in recent years interoperable and standardized electric buses. We have BC Transit that has dedicated itself to zero emissions in the future and was Canada's first system to deploy hydrogen fuel cell buses a decade ago. We have Edmonton Transit that has launched one of the most innovative energy deployment systems at its facilities to electrify its buses in one of the coldest climates in this country. We have Winnipeg Transit that was the first to launch battery electric buses in Canada with a major trial in Winnipeg at the airport that supports job growth at New Flyer. We have York Region Transit in Brampton that have been world leaders in launching the biggest deployment of over a dozen interoperable and standardized high-power charger buses in and around the Greater Toronto area. We have Toronto Transit Commission that's launched the biggest deployment of depot charged buses, and we have leadership in Montreal and Laval in terms of deploying a multiplicity of electric buses in their fleets. Lastly, we have leadership in Mississauga in looking to deploy Canada's Return to Hydrogen project in the near future. Even in Cape Breton, in Burlington, in London, in Quebec City, we have agencies that have already taken action to plan for this really complicated transformation. So, ministers, we're ready. We're roaring to go. There is a pent-up appetite for this, and the job growth and creation is allied to the low-carbon economy that we all want to live and work in the future. I very much look forward to helping our transit agencies spend this cash. There's no doubt about that, dynamically and in a way that will necessarily build us a better society. Minister, merci pour tous vos efforts. C'est vraiment quelque chose d'incroyable, mais aussi nécessaire pour le futur du Canada. Thank you on behalf of transit, on behalf of women as transit riders, on behalf of those of us who want to build back better in Canada in a low-carbon economy. Thank you for doing today what Canada needed done decades ago.
I jump for joy. I think that was amazing. Thank you, Josipa, because it really is a partnership of so many different people. As you say, this is a complex transformation, but a huge opportunity for Canada. I do think you're one of those women who gets things done, and you've been emphasizing the huge opportunity. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad you've highlighted so many municipalities across the country who are leading the way. This is a huge opportunity for Canada. We've got the financing, we've got the bank there, we've got the federal government, we've got municipalities, we've got QTRIC, we've got transit authorities, we've got the technology, we've got the companies, and this is a great story for Canada, and we're going to show the world how we can be ambitious and how we can do this transformation. So with that, I think that, I don't know, I think we should all just be cheering. It's very hard because we're all in this virtual world mainly. But anyway, a huge thanks to everyone who joined. And I think that is it for our event. So now we'll just take some questions.
Hello, I just want to make sure that you're able to hear me correctly. My name is Chantal.
We can hear you, Chantal.
Perfect. So I'm Minister McKenna's press secretary, and I will be in charge of unmuting you. So please use the raise hand function. You will get one question and one follow-up. Bonjour, je m'appelle Chantal Aubertin et je suis l'attachée de presse de Ministre McKenna. Maintenant, je voudrais inviter aux médias pour demander leurs questions. Vous aurez la chance de demander une question et un suivi. Utilisez la fonction main levée et je vous rendrai votre sourdine. Donc, on va commencer avec Philippe Champagne de Radio-Canada.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Vincent, est-ce qu'on vous a perdu?
Est-ce que vous m'entendez toujours?
Oui, on vous entend. Vas-y.
Parfait. Alors, sur l'annonce du jour d'abord, quelle part de cette annonce de ce montant de 2,75 milliards sera accessible vite sous forme de subvention? Et combien prévoyez-vous pour la grande région métropolitaine de Montréal?
Alors, merci pour la question, Vincent. Alors, c'est 2,75 milliards de dollars. Ça, c'est l'investissement du gouvernement fédéral pour des subventions. Aussi, on a la Banque canadienne de l'infrastructure. Ils ont 1,5 milliard de dollars. Alors, c'est un grand investissement. Et c'est pour aller en avance vite. Je sais, Montréal, c'est un exemple d'une municipalité qui a beaucoup d'ambition. J'ai parlé beaucoup avec la maire à Valérie Plante de son ambition. J'ai eu la chance d'aller sur des autobus électriques. Alors, nous sommes prêts. Alors, nous voulons voir c'est quoi les demandes des municipalités parce qu'on doit aller en avance. On ne veut pas attendre du tout. On a besoin, on est dans la plus grande crise économique qu'on a déjà vue. Et alors, on doit avancer, ça va créer de bons emplois, il y a des opportunités et le financement est là maintenant.
Merci,
En suivi, Mme McKenna, je veux vous parler de la déclaration de l'ombudsman de la Défense, Gary Walbourne, hier. Le ministre de la Défense, Harjit Sajjan, selon lui, savait depuis 2018 que le chef d'état-major était visé par des allégations d'inconduite. Il n'y a rien qui a été fait. M. Vance est resté en poste. Question pour vous. Est-ce que vous avez encore confiance en M. Sajjan?
Oui, bien sûr, j'ai confiance dans le ministre Sajjan. Et je vais être clair que notre gouvernement prend très au sérieux des allégations comme ça et on agit. Alors, c'est une priorité pour moi, c'est une priorité pour le ministre, c'est une priorité pour notre gouvernement.
Merci, David Aiken from Global.
David?
Hi, everybody. Question for the ministers. A bit of a change of transportation discussion. I know we're talking about buses today, but I wondered if I could ask you a little bit about air transportation, just in the context that neither Minister Alghabra nor Minister Freeland are available today. But there is word that a deal with the airlines is imminent that would allow many annoyed airline passengers to get refunds. And I wondered if either of you could speak to the intent of Cabinet to see that negotiation through quickly and the importance for Cabinet to get some refunds for airline passengers while protecting air service and protecting jobs in the airline sector.
Well, I would just say we've been really clear that refunds are a precondition to any deal. That is extremely important. We all hear from Canadians who want to be compensated, who want to get their refunds. And I know a lot of hard work is going on, Ministerial Gabra and also Minister Freeland to get a deal. I'm certainly not here to announce any deal, but I know that there's some good progress being made.
Thank you very much. That's all I have today.
Thank you, David. Maintenant, Julien Paquet.
Bonjour. La première question serait pour la ministre McKenna. C'est en fait une précision par rapport à ce programme-là. Vous avez insisté beaucoup sur les bénéfices que ça pourrait avoir au niveau de la création d'emplois dans des entreprises canadiennes. Est-ce que, dans le fond, les subventions vont forcer les municipalités à faire affaire avec ces entreprises canadiennes-là?
Alors, merci pour la question, parce qu'on a une bonne histoire. On ne force personne, mais les compagnies canadiennes ont la technologie. Quand je visite les municipalités, je vois les autobus New Flyer, je vois les autobus Lyon Bus, Nova Bus, la technologie Ballard Fuel Cell. Alors pour nous, je pense que la compétition, c'est une bonne histoire. Et je pense que dans le contexte, on travaille très fort pour parler aux Américains, combien on a une opportunité de travailler ensemble. Et la compétition est bonne pour tout le monde. Et nous avons les compagnies qui peuvent gagner les concours parce que nous avons la technologie. Et je pense qu'on voit qu'on crée des emplois. Et je dirais, on n'a même pas parlé de combien on a vu des entreprises comme Chrysler et Ford qui travaillent avec nos unions, qui travaillent avec Unifor pour dire on va avoir des lignes électriques pour manufacturer les véhicules électriques. Alors, une très bonne histoire pour le Canada et non, nous sommes prêts.
Et ma deuxième question, ce serait pour le maire Watson. Je vais vous laisser
une minute.
Nettoyer le...
Oups, OK.
Salut, Julienne. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Alors, évidemment, j'ai hâte d'entendre plus de détails par rapport à ce que cette annonce-là veut dire pour Ottawa à la réunion de la Commission du transport en commun. Mais en attendant, je voulais vous poser une question sur des informations qui sont sorties hier à l'effet qu'il y a un potentiel retard qui va jusqu'à 4 mois pour les travaux de la phase 2 dans le sud de ce train léger. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a des inquiétudes sérieuses à y avoir là?
Bien, certainement, notre personnel travaille avec le groupe qui est responsable pour le train léger nord-sud. Il estime que c'est une possibilité de 40 jours pour compléter le projet, probablement septembre, octobre 2022. Mais j'ai beaucoup de confiance avec le groupe et aussi notre personnel. Et comme notre directeur de transport commun a dit il y a 2 jours qu'il y a une pandémie et il y a des effets sur les personnes qui construisent les trains légers à Brampton. Ça, c'est un hotspot pour COVID-19, alors il y a des défis là. C'est la même chose avec des personnes qui sont des experts qui habitent en France, par exemple, pour la compagnie qui construit les trains légers. Et ce n'est pas possible de retourner au Canada pour 4 ou 5 mois. Alors, il y a des problèmes comme ça, mais ce n'est pas à ce moment très sérieux. On pense qu'il y a peut-être une délai de 40 jours, 45 jours, quelque chose comme ça. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Now we're going to Craig Lord from
Thanks. My question is also for Mayor Watson, if he wants to stay up there.
Hi, Craig.
Hi. I also had a question in English, I suppose, on the LRT. I was wondering, when were you first made aware that there were possible delays on the Trillium Line extension?
I usually get briefed 3 or 4 days before a particular meeting, so 3 or 4 days before our meeting, which took place on, I've lost track of time, Tuesday, I guess.
Thanks. And follow-up to that, given speculation about possible delays, if they may come to pass, how would you describe your level of confidence that Ottawa Transit riders will be able to get back on the Trillium line before the end of 2022?
Oh, I feel very confident that that line, the north-south line, the Trillium line, will be up and running in 2022. Whether that's September 1st or September 30th, obviously, as I indicated in French, there have been a number of challenges with a number of large construction projects across Canada as a result of COVID-19 and the impact it's had on those particular companies. A good example is our trains, which I saw 3 or 4 of them being delivered today, are manufactured and assembled in Brampton. And Brampton, in the Peel region, is one of the hot spots for COVID-19, and they've had a number of their employees that have tested positive and had to leave the site. So that slowed down some of the work with the vehicles, but we've built in time to ensure that these kinds of things do not jeopardize the east-west route. And with respect to north-south, again, we brought in a consultant who has expertise in scheduling, and they believe that if there is going to be a delay, it may be 40 or 45 days, but certainly all operational by in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Maintenant, Étienne Malouin de TVA Nouvelles.
Oui, bonjour à tous. Première question pour M. Watson. Peut-être expliquer l'annonce d'aujourd'hui, comment ça va se traduire et quel impact ça va avoir chez OC Transpo dans les prochains mois, prochaines années.
Bien, l'annonce aujourd'hui est très bonne nouvelle pour non seulement le système de transport en commun ici à Ottawa et partout notre pays, mais pour les passagers et pour l'environnement. Et je dis merci beaucoup à le gouvernement de M. Trudeau avec le ministre Champagne et McKenna, parce que ça, c'est une chose très importante pour nous autres. Nous ne sommes pas capables de payer pour toute l'infrastructure, et ça, c'est la raison qu'on va probablement utiliser le banque d'infrastructure. Et aussi, toutes les municipalités aiment des subventions. On aime beaucoup des subventions, on aime des prêts, et c'est vraiment important pour nous autres de continuer de travailler avec non seulement le gouvernement de M. Trudeau, mais aussi convaincre le gouvernement de M. Ford de participer avec ce programme pour les passagers et pour les résidents de notre ville et toutes les grandes villes au Canada. Merci.
Et ma deuxième question serait pour la ministre McKenna. Je vais vous laisser changer de place.
Un grand merci. Vous nous aidez beaucoup. Beaucoup de travail. Oui, bonjour.
J'aimerais vous entendre sur le projet de tramway entre Gatineau et Ottawa. On est rendu où dans ce dossier-là? Parce que certains espéraient peut-être que c'était l'annonce d'aujourd'hui. On est rendu où dans ce dossier-là?
Alors, on travaille de très près avec le gouvernement du Québec et aussi le gouvernement de Gatineau. Je pense que c'est une grande opportunité. C'est sûr qu'on doit être conscient, c'est l'argent des comptables. Alors, on doit avoir comment est-ce qu'on dit ça, le business case, mais moi, je suis certaine qu'on va voir ça bientôt. Et on a fait l'annonce qui a été faite il y a quelques semaines avec le premier ministre. 15 milliards de dollars pour investir dans de bons projets qui sont prêts à aller dans les prochaines années. Alors moi, j'espère que je vais avoir la chance de faire une annonce avec le gouvernement du Québec et avec le maire de Gatineau. Mais attendez, ça ne va pas se faire aujourd'hui.
Thank you. Now, John Willing from the Ottawa Citizen.
Thank you. It's a question for Mayor Watson.
Okay. We should probably do this like, does anyone have a question for the mayor? Does anyone have a question? But, all right, just a second.
Hi, John.
Hi, Mayor. Your Finance Committee the other night endorsed spending $50 million for lawyers in its ongoing claim against RTG. And I know Council has heaped on several cost claims onto RTG in recent years, and I'm wondering if you know how much money the city believes RTG owes it right now.
Well, as you know, that's under discussion right now with our lawyers, and because, as you pointed out, we had the briefing that was in camera because it's confidential. We don't want to give our hand away to the organization that we're pressing, but obviously we're dealing with millions and millions of dollars, and we feel we have a strong case on all of the points that have been raised over the course of the last couple of years. We're also pleased that we've started to see a significant increase in the reliability and the performance of the LRT system, and got a lot of those initial bugs out of the system, whether it's the doors or the CBT system or the brakes and wheels and so on. So we're in a much better place, but we still have outstanding issues that have to be dealt with, and whether they go to mediation, arbitration, or end up in the courts, we feel we have a very solid case and obviously the evidence to back up our claims. But in terms of the actual amount, our solicitors have advised us that we not talk about that because we don't want to disadvantage our case against RTG.
Thanks, Mayor. Related to the issue today with the e-buses, the City of Ottawa, as you know, bought hybrid buses some time ago, and they failed to realize savings, and they presented more problems for the city, if I recall, than what they thought they would. And how do you sell to constituents the idea of buying e-buses for the fleet when the city experimented with different technology in the past and ultimately failed?
Well, I think for the simple reason that technology has come a long way over the last 20 years, and you heard our guests talk about those municipalities throughout the country, both in cold climates in northern Canada and warmer climates in southern Canada, that the technology is significantly better and more reliable. And we've got a great story to tell in terms of Canadian expertise in technology and manufacturing in different parts of the country that will build these buses. As you know, we've put out a tender, and our first 4 buses coming later this year are from Winnipeg, New Flyer. And the purpose of bringing in those 4 buses is to give us, as the customer, and our customers at OC Transpo, an opportunity to test the buses. We have, as you know, a pretty unique piece of geography. We're a large city, 2,600 square kilometers. The cities of Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto all can fit within the boundaries of the City of Ottawa, and we're still 100 square kilometers bigger. We have all 4 seasons, very distinct, all 4 seasons, with lots of snow and lots of really cold weather. And I think, if we are to simply put our head in the sand and never be bold and always timid and not trying new things, then we'll never come anywhere close to reducing our GHG count and really helping to save our environment. So, you've seen the diesel buses, whether the diesel, electric buses, spewing out fumes every time they're at a stop sign or a traffic light. And we're going to be saving the equivalent of 38,000 liters of diesel fuel for every single bus. So a combination of the light rail transit, which is electrified, as well as our bus fleet, which our ultimate goal is to have the entire fleet electrified, will bring us a long way to environmental sustainability within our borders. And then we know other mayors and other councils are working very hard to electrify their systems as well. And we really couldn't speed up our process if it wasn't for today's announcement. As I said, we're starting off small with 4 buses, but I can see us significantly bringing that number up, and we hope to be able to bring a number to Transit Commission before the summer as to what we think with this announcement we can afford to bring forward even more electric buses. Thank you.
Thank you. Maintenant, Mama Fou de Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Ce serait une question pour le maire Watson.
Oui, bonjour.
Bonjour, Monsieur le maire. Ce serait une autre question par rapport à l'annonce d'aujourd'hui. En fait, je ne sais pas si vous avez des chiffres concrètement, combien Ottawa va bénéficier de bus électriques, quelle est, parmi l'enveloppe du fédéral, combien d'argent ira pour OC Transpo pour avoir une flotte de bus électriques. Donc, je ne sais pas si vous avez un peu plus de détails par rapport à ça.
Oui, mais avec cette annonce de les ministres Champagne et McKenna, nous sommes prêts de travailler avec notre personnel et le personnel de le gouvernement fédéral pour déterminer les totals et les montants. Alors, pour le moment, on ne sait pas ça parce que c'est le premier jour de cette annonce, mais avec cette bonne nouvelle pour nous, on va travailler avec le département de Mme McKenna et la Banque infrastructure de M. Cory et déterminer le total et est-ce que c'est abordable pour 30, 40, 50 autobus? On va déterminer ça et développer un rapport pour le conseil d'administration pour OC Transpo. J'espère qu'avant le commencement de l'été.
Concrètement, de ce que j'ai compris, on aura quand même 4 bus électriques dans la flotte de ces transports pour l'automne prochain, c'est ça?
Oui, pour cette année. C'est notre projet pilote. C'est seulement 4 autobus, mais je pense que c'est important pour nous de tester des autobus dans notre environnement ici. Mais avec cette annonce aujourd'hui, c'est possible pour nous autres de commander plus des autobus électriques pour OC Transpo. Alors, c'est vraiment une opportunité excellente pour nous autres parce que sans cette annonce aujourd'hui, ce n'est pas possible pour nous autres comment est-ce qu'on dit, enlarge le fleet de OC Transpo. Merci.
Et ma question suivie pour vous aussi, M. Watson, ce serait par rapport à votre
Pas des questions pour M. Champagne?
Moi, je m'occupe des nouvelles locales, donc ce serait pour vous. Donc, par rapport à l'annonce, par rapport à votre tweet d'hier concernant vous avez exprimé votre inquiétude par rapport à la propagation du virus ici à Ottawa. Pourquoi est-ce que vous voyez que les chiffres vous inquiètent? Est-ce qu'on pourrait passer au rouge prochainement, selon ce que vous voyez, selon les indicateurs?
Oui, certainement. Je travaille avec Dr. Etches et on voit des numéros qui ne sont pas positifs, qui n'est pas dans la direction correcte. Alors, ça, c'est la raison que j'ai donné ce message. Aussi, Dr. Etches et Santé publique donnaient le même message. C'est le temps d'être prudent avec la situation parce que nous sommes dans la catégorie orange et ce n'est pas bonne nouvelle pour des petites entreprises si le gouvernement de la province dit « alors, Ottawa, vous êtes en rouge maintenant ». Alors, c'est important de continuer de laver les mains, utiliser un masque, la distance sociale, des choses comme ça. Et ça, c'est mon message. S'il vous plaît, les résidents d'Ottawa, suivre des règlements de santé publique d'Ottawa. Merci.
Thank you. Jordan Press from the Canadian Press.
Good afternoon, I guess, at this point. My question is for the Minister. Minister, can you just explain, when it comes to this funding that you're announcing today, how do you ensure that you're not duplicating efforts with the Infrastructure Bank and at the same time making sure that municipalities don't maybe take the path they know best, which is the project-based funding that would go through Infrastructure Canada, and essentially then leave more money sitting unused at the Infrastructure Bank?
Well, thanks, Jordan. That's a really important question. We need to make sure that we're expanding the dollars that we have to invest in good infrastructure across our country, and that's the role of the Canada Infrastructure Bank. It's to get more infrastructure built. It's to stretch dollars. There's a limit to federal government dollars, and so I will pass it over to Ehren Cory, but I think, as the mayor has said, we have tons of ambition across this country. I think Josipa has also pointed out just all the municipalities that are moving forward. We've invested already through Infrastructure Canada's program in 300 electric buses, but I'll tell you the ambition is a lot more than that. And then the costs in relation to buses aren't just buses. It's actually the charging infrastructure and the transformation that we need to do. So we need to be looking at innovative financing. That's exactly why we created the Canada Infrastructure Bank. And there's a way with cost savings to be able to make this model work with the bank and grant money. And you need both. And we've been working very closely for a long time to move this forward. But I'm going to hand this over to Ehren because he'll be much more eloquent on the role of the bank.
It's a great summary. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Look, there is a wonderful case based on the savings potential that comes from the conversion to electric fleets. And as you say, the CIB is set up to look for these sorts of commercial opportunities where we can leverage the revenue that comes out of investments in infrastructure. And we look at energy retrofits in building would be the same example. You invest in a building, you create energy savings. Those have a ability to pay themselves off and to make a low interest loan from the bank, take the risk on the technology, take risk on the scale up, and use our money to get more built. And as the minister says, what that does is it grows the pie. It allows us to do more with the same amount of tax dollars. But we also have to be realistic, as the minister points out, that the savings that come from the conversion to an electric fleet, they can cover the cost of the bus, the higher upfront cost of the bus, almost always. They can cover some of the charging infrastructure that goes along with that. But as Josipa said so well in her comments, the conversion to an electric bus fleet, it really is an end-to-end. It's the garage that the mayor and minister are standing in right now, which needs to be redesigned. It's the routes for the buses that need to be redesigned so that charging can happen in the flow of the day without disturbing passenger transit. So it's quite a from-the-ground-up reinvestment. And the savings will pay for a lot of that, but not for all of it. And that's why the combination of a grant from the government, a subsidy, combined with a loan against savings together will allow us to get the most done. It allows us to make wholesale change quickly and do so at minimal impact to taxpayers.
Thank you for that. And as a follow-up, Minister, I want to ask you for your thinking about building transit, because you're obviously going to be looking at that over the coming years. And I'm wondering if your thinking on building mass transit has changed, given that it seems we may not be moving people to and from a downtown core anymore, but to and from various areas of a city, or for that matter, people staying at home more, given what we've seen through this pandemic. So I'm wondering if your thinking has evolved on how public transit projects funded by the federal government should actually look.
Well, I think my thinking has evolved only in the sense that we need more and better public transit. The reality is many of our essential workers have no other option than to take public transit. And I think we've recognized how important it is for people to be able to get around in a safe way. And I think the other thing is that I think we recognize that we're going to get out of this pandemic, but we're still going to have the climate crisis. And so we have to tackle emissions in our transportation sector. It's a quarter of Canada's emissions, but this is a great news story because this is a huge economic and jobs opportunity for Canadians and Canadian companies. We are a world leader in manufacturing electric buses. We have partners in cities who are absolutely ambitious because they want to save money over time using this new technology, electric buses, because they want cleaner air. It's going to be quieter streets with electric buses, and because their citizens are demanding action on climate change. So I think it is incredibly important, but look, we don't design the routes. Our role is to figure out how do we get more and better public transit, and how do we work with the transit agencies? How do I work with the mayor of Ottawa so that we can get the public transit that Canadians deserve and move on this quickly? And the other thing is, I mean, we do need to restart our economy. We're in the greatest recession since the Great Depression, and this is a huge opportunity. As we invest to restart our economy, we should be doing it in ways that are going to create jobs, grow our economy, make us more competitive as a country, that tackle climate change, and also build more inclusive communities. And going back to where I started, that a lot of people rely on public transit. They don't have other options. Women are the primary users of public transit. We have young people who are using public transit to get to school. essential workers to get to and from work. And we're going to get out of this pandemic, and we got to make sure that when we do that, that we've reflected on what we want for the future. And this is exactly, I think, the future we want. A future that is cleaner, a future that has good jobs and strong Canadian companies, and a future that builds more inclusive communities.
Merci, Mesdames Chepot de Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question est pour vous, Madame McKenna. Je voudrais revenir sur votre réponse d'il y a quelques instants, mais en français, c'est sur ces 2,7 milliards pour faire rouler donc 5000 nouveaux autobus électriques. Est-ce que cette somme spécifique peut aussi donc servir à acheter et installer des infrastructures de recharge? Alors, est-ce que vous pouvez aller peut-être un peu plus loin justement sur les différentes façons dont l'argent pourrait être utilisé?
Alors, ça, c'est une bonne question. Alors, l'investissement, c'est 2,75 milliards de dollars, puis aussi l'investissement de la Banque canadienne d'infrastructure, 1,5 milliard de dollars. Alors, ça, c'est pour un investissement dans les autobus, mais aussi dans le rechargement. C'est vraiment important dans les dépôts d'autobus parce qu'on a besoin de ça aussi. Alors, si on veut avoir 5000 autobus, on doit faire beaucoup d'autres choses. Alors, on a besoin d'avoir un grand investissement et je pense qu'il y a une grande opportunité. Mais je ne sais pas si vous parlez du chargement des véhicules électriques. Alors, les véhicules dans la rue, c'est sûr qu'on investit aussi dans le chargement. Ça, c'est tellement important. Et je pense que c'est notre stratégie, une grande stratégie bien industrielle, une stratégie pour les communautés, c'est d'électrifier tout notre système de transport. On doit faire ça et on y avance aujourd'hui.
Merci, c'était tout pour moi.
And last one, Kate Porter from CBC.
Hi, everybody. My questions were for Mayor Watson as well.
He had to leave, I believe. Unfortunately, he isn't here right now, but was it just for the mayor?
Yes, they were pilot project related questions. Maybe I'll ask one of yourself, though, Minister McKenna. Just, I mean, because you live here, what do you see? Do you see challenges of just the scale of what needs to happen here with, garages and charging stations as far as, Barrhaven, Orleans, et cetera?
So I only see opportunities. We've started, with 4 electric buses. That's a start, but we need to electrify our transportation system, and we have a huge opportunity when it comes to electric buses. And we're not reinventing the wheel here in Ottawa. Across the country, you have municipalities that are, further north. You have municipalities that are smaller, that have big distances to go, and the technology has improved so greatly. You can do en route charging. And so we need to be investing in this technology, investing in the future. So the good news is we're here as a partner. As the mayor said, there's no way the city could do this alone. I think that you're going to see a lot more ambition from municipalities. I think you heard it from the mayor of Ottawa. This has changed his thinking about a step change right now. How do we move to electrify the entire fleet? So I certainly encourage all the municipalities across the country, be ambitious. Think creatively. The technology is there. You have people like Josipa who can help you. The Q-Trick is a great partner in explaining the technology and coming up with solutions. We have the Infrastructure Bank that's going to help on the financing side, and the federal government is there. So this is how we're going to make progress on climate change, which also, at the end of the day, that is the greatest crisis that we face. And we're all moving forward on this. But great announcement today. I think we're done. So with that, unless you have another question, Kate?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, well, thanks very much. We guess we can't do pictures unless people want to do more Zoom pictures. But anyway, thanks very much, Ehren. Thanks, Josipa. Thanks, Jean. Thanks to the mayor for joining us. And Monsieur Champagne, mais il est parti. Bye.